everyone. Welcome back to PlayStation Live from E3. I'm so excited to be joined by David Cage of Quantic Dream and, of course, Ryan Clements. And we're here to talk about Detroit Become Human. Now, I just played this demo last night at the Expo. I got to play the hostage demo, and it's a super intense demo.
It is.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. We got to see a little bit about it last year, and this, I think, just kind of built on it. So walk us through a little bit about the Android technology that we get to see and how it's kind of taking over.
Well, the game takes place in the near future, about 20 years from now, and it's a world in which technology has made possible the creation of androids that move, speak, behave like human beings, but they are treated like objects. So in this game, we're going to control 3 characters. Kara was the woman we introduced a year ago, and at last E3 we introduced Connor, the Deviant Hunter. So last year it was just showing a video, but this year it's fully playable, as you could see, and people can play it on the show floor. And we introduced our 3rd character called Marcus, played by Jesse Williams at the last press conference yesterday.
Oh, it was Jesse Williams. Malik called that out, and I was like, I don't know, don't ask me. All right, Malik, you were right, just for the reference. Anyway, all right, continue. I'm sorry, David.
That's it.
Oh, okay, perfect. I wanted to just say that I think that Detroit, it's like the perfect time that you guys are showing this game, because even in technology now, AI is like a huge thing that people are trying to wrap their mind around, because these are really very real questions philosophically and morally that people are facing now in the world and in the next 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, I feel like you guys, I think you knew that this was all coming together. Built it right into the story.
Yeah, right. Well, I was not the first one to see it. I was really inspired by a book called Singularity is Near by Ray Kurzweil, where he described this future in which, human intelligence doesn't evolve much, but machines, they have an exponential curve in how they progress. So there will be a point in the near future where there are 2 curves we're going to cross, and they will become more intelligent than we are. And what if beyond this point, they will start to feel emotion and start to want rights? How will we react? What will we do about it? And that's a very interesting question. It's fascinating to me, especially because I think this is going to happen. It's not sci-fi. The question is only, is it going to be 20 years from now, 40 years from now? I don't know. But there will be a point in the near future where this is going to be the case.
Now, David, I know you spent a lot of time on the script. I think it totally shows just in the little pieces that we've been able to see. How, from a writing perspective, did you go about writing all the different replayabilities? Because based on different choices you make, the game changes over and over and over again. I can't imagine how long that script was and all of like the, option B, option C.
I have the same question.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm writing this kind of scripts for nearly 20 years, so I have some experience, but I must confess that Detroit's been by far the most complex script I've ever written. And it took me 2 years, which is quite unusual for me. It's a very long period of time. Final script is about 2,000 pages. It's really huge. And yeah, I mean, in comparison, a film is about 100 pages. This is 2,000 pages, so you can imagine, I mean, the amount of work, all the dialogues, all the conditions, and the different branches in the tree structure. It's been really a nightmare to write, to be honest.
A beautiful
I
nightmare.
appreciate your honesty, though.
Yes, we thank you for the beautiful nightmare.
Yeah, how do you try and find the focus? I mean, how do you always direct things back to the story that you want to tell?
Well, the thing is that there is not one story that I want to tell. There are many stories that I want to tell, and I just try to create this narrative space. It's a little bit abstract, but I create a narrative space in which the player is free to evolve and to tell his own story. So you cannot tell any story in Detroit. There is still this narrative space over there, but you can really build your own story based on your actions and face the consequences of your decisions.
Did you actually go to Detroit and do research there? Because Detroit itself feels like its own character.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was so important for us. We couldn't have written a game about Detroit without going to Detroit. And of course, we visited the empty factories and the empty churches and all these things that people can see on the internet. But at the same time, we saw some amazing places. I mean, there is in Detroit one of the most amazing theaters that I've ever seen. It's called the Fox Theater. It's absolutely beautiful. And there are many places like this. This city is really fascinating in that sense that it's been so big and so successful, and it went through hard times, and now it starts to rebuild. it's a very interesting story by itself. So for me, it was obvious that my story had to take place there.
And how much of a hand do you have kind of in the artistic and stylistic and tonal direction of the game as well? Because just everything seems to light up on screen when you're looking, especially at the Connor demo. Because, well, first of all, we can talk about how stressed out I got during that demo, but we could save that for later. But I mean, how do you kind of keep your team guided and enhance their ability to tell that vision?
Well, first of all, I have a very, very talented team, very committed, and fantastic people working incredibly hard. So my role is more like a guide to see, okay, we want to go in that direction, but how we need to get there, I mean, they know better than I do. So they do a fantastic job, and if the game looks great, it's thanks to them.
So you don't program the whole thing?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't do anything, actually. I mean, no, it's true. I write, and I direct actors, and I help everyone with the global direction, but I don't program. I'm not a graphic artist. I can't do much.
I think we'll just do a pull quote. It's "I don't do anything"
Right,
by
exactly.
David Kaye. I don't think that's fair to say of you.
I do really love one thing that stood out for me when we first saw it. Something comes, I come from a film background, something so cinematic is there's this one point, where, especially when you're doing the hostage, interrogation, pushing the L1 button and you get to zoom in. It's almost like you're rack focusing on a camera and zooming in on that character. Where did that idea come from? Was that something you always planned on doing, or did that kind of happen organically as you were writing, where you're like, we need to see up close because the dial in his head changes and everything? So,
well, we work on 3D cameras for almost 20 years, and we were one of the very first companies in the world to develop tools dedicated to cinematography in real-time 3D. So we have developed over the years some experience about how to play with cameras, and I think Detroit is a very important game in that aspect for us, because it's one where we try to merge better cinematography and interactivity. We still wanted the strong sense of cinematography, but at the same time we wanted really interactivity to be the center of everything. So you're really in control of the camera, but when you don't control the camera is like there is a director and a cameraman. But you can take over any time by yourself, just moving the right stick. So these kind of little twists are very important to us. But we play also with motion capture cameras. So we have a shoulder camera, and we motion capture the movement of the camera just to have a real feel, to have the breathing of the cameraman and the steps and all these things. It's small details, but it makes a big difference in the end.
totally. I completely agree.
All right, so let me just say one thing. The hostage negotiation, it's just rife with tension all the way through. And I was actually telling Malik earlier in the day, one of our other hosts, when you become a parent, it changes the what's at stake in that scene. And I know that you are a parent as well, and writing that sort of scene where a child's life is at stake and the tension is just racked up really high. I mean, how do you kind of play with that emotion but still keep it kind of in line with the story that you're telling?
Well, it's a lot of work, and to be totally honest with you, the very first version we had of this scene, the little girl was older. She was maybe 16 or 17. And we felt there was something wrong. I mean, we couldn't really connect, and we didn't have this sense of tension because she felt like she was an adult. And of course, her life is at stake, and it's important, but it was different. And there was something missing for me in the scene. And we just decided to do something simple, is to have a little girl, because suddenly it becomes very interesting. She becomes very vulnerable, and her feet don't touch the ground. He holds it her like this. And there was a cable on set, so he could hold her with one arm.
Oh my God.
So the little girl who shot this was 9 years old, I think, on set, and she enjoyed that a lot, because between each take we had to swing her all over the place, and she loved it. But
well, that makes me feel a little better. The
Yeah.
tension has dropped a little bit.
Yeah, no kid was killed during the shooting.
Okay, I certainly hope
Yeah.
not. Yes. Yeah, that's all I had for you, David. I really appreciate you
Thank you
coming
for
on.
having
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing this game with us. I cannot wait to see all the different ways I can replay it over and over and over again. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to have a lot more here on PlayStation live from E3, so stick around.